like to call to order the January 12th, 2009 meeting of the East Ascension Gravity Drainage District Number 1. First order of business, roll call. Madam Secretary, please note that everyone's here except Mr. Adrian Thompson. I think he's at work. Would everybody stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Valentine?
Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We ask blessings upon our meeting tonight, Lord. We ask blessings on our people of Ascension Parish. As we enter into a new year, Father, we ask you to guide each one of us. May each one of us look to you, Lord, for our wisdom. And we make decisions, Lord, for your people. And in your name, Father, we ask all these things in Christ, our Son's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to any public comments. If you would like to speak on any topic item on the agenda, please sign in with the secretary. You'll be allowed 3 minutes. Any chair additions? No chair additions? Go to item number 4, the acceptance of the December 1st, 2008 minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Pat Bell. Any discussion? Any opposition? So moved. We'll move on to item number 5, the chairman's report. Just to give you a quick update on the projects we have pending with the Pontchartrain Levee District. On the Law Ridge Levee extension, we have they've accepted the role of paying for the survey and all on that. We have someone with GSA, Mr. Jake Lambert. Can you give us a little update on where we stand on that?
How y'all doing, guys? Jake Lambert, engineer at GSA. We got approved by the Pontchartrain Levee District to begin work. Here in the next week or so, we're trying to organize a meeting with the surveying and the hydraulics and hydrology sub-consultants, and about to get kicked off. Project timeline is 200 days, and throughout this process, once we get going, we'll be providing y'all with periodic updates. Also, we can kind of act as a liaison between the Pontchartrain Levee District, since we attend most of those meetings. So, if y'all have any questions, we'll be happy to answer any of them.
Any questions, Mr. Shake Snyder?
Jake, what's the scope of work of this?
This project is to do kind of a feasibility of extending the Law Ridge Levee from its current end at Gold Place Road around kind of encircling the Lake Martin area.
Okay.
Looking at what it's going to require to construct this levee, the benefits that it will produce, and try to put a cost associated with that.
Okay. And you have a route already, or is it? Or
We have an alignment, and it's gonna probably adapt as we kind of get a little further along into the project. But basically, it'll pick up behind at the end of the existing levee, wrap around and cross over behind the old Ray Stouts ponds, and then go to the east from there, and come around Lake Martin area, and then terminate at the end of Jim Myers Road back there. There's a natural high spot back there that we'll probably tie into. So.
Thanks. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jake. Just to let everybody know, I think that was with the PLD. That cost proposal from GSA was, I think, $270,000. Right. Also with Pontchartrain Levee District, we had made a plea for them to take a look at working with the parish on the on a feasibility of Panama Canal and Bayou Conway. And they took a look at it, and they've let us know that they will not fund 100%. They're basically looking at what they've been told what it would cost is they're looking at 50%. All right. And what they've done was, I've talked to some of our Ascension Parish representatives on the board, and they've asked this board and the East Ascension Gravity Drainage District to take a look and see what they want done, and for us to go through the choosing of an engineering firm. Let us choose the engineering firm, and then we'll make that plea back to them after we chose the firm and we have the scope of what we want, that they'll look at funding 50% of it. So, Mr. Rue, please put that together to bring back to us, and then we'll go through the proper procedures. Any questions on that? Yes, sir, Todd.
Yeah, Bill, what we've done in the past, recent improvements to Panama and Conway with the snagging and a little bit dredging that they've done, what are we looking at with this project? Is this a complete dredging? I wasn't aware that we needed to dredge the whole canal.
That's the purpose of the evaluation and analysis, to determine exactly the extent, the scope of work that really needs to be done.
But the snagging and
That's
that helped tremendously from what I can
Well,
understand.
actually, the snagging of the Panama, we did some small project. Panama Conway is in line to do more snagging, part of the FEMA reimbursement. Debris removal from the bayous, they're included. And so you're going to get some snagging through that operation.
One other question, we're looking at 50% cost here. And I guess the master plan, where are we at with the master plan for us on a priority? Where is this particular project at? Or is it in the master plan?
It was in the master plan for some funding for evaluation.
Just evaluation?
Just
huh?
evaluation.
Just evaluation and analysis and to determine exactly the scope of work. It's hard to put together a plan or a number on the project itself until we know exactly what the scope of work of the project is.
Okay.
So we have it funded for analysis, evaluation only.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Valentine.
I'm sorry to go back, but since we're talking about the Pontchartrain Levee Board, you mentioned the feasibility study. Bill, dealing with CDM, all we did with the Law Ridge levee with CDM, if I'm not mistaken, was cost analysis, and did they, I mean, I remember seeing map after map on proposed levees.
On the extension you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, I think you did get some information from CDM.
We have from CDM, of course, we evaluated the route, potential route. We did surveying the potential route, some geotechnical investigation of that, up to just a little bit past Prince Road. And that's the full extent of the CDM project, or at least their analysis. What's really needed, and what Jake and them are getting involved with, is actually a drainage analysis, both the hydraulic and hydrologic analysis of that whole basin. So you use that to determine what size levee you need and what size structures you need to allow free flow of water back and forth. So their main purpose or their main function is to provide that analysis of the basin, which was not done under CDM's contract.
Okay, and that's totally funded by LT, or do we share in that one also?
No, that's totally funded
Funded by
by
them.
Pontchartrain
Okay.
Levee
Thank
District.
you.
But what we've asked not to waste any of our taxpayer money, since we both
Right.
pay into
Well,
Pontchartrain Levee District and Ascension Parish, is that any information that we paid for prior by CDM
right.
to be handed over to, that Mr. Rue has it all, and that he should work with
And that's why I was bringing it
GSA
up.
to go ahead and make sure that we don't duplicate any services
Right.
there.
I got you. Thank you.
And we expect the cost to reflect that. All right, the next item, on item B, we've been having the Henderson Bayou proposal that's been engineering and basic engineering and up to 30% engineered by CDM. They came across probably 2 months ago with just a first shot at what they thought it would, the project would cost. Within that cost, I don't think that they had a clear goal, from us going out first. They went out and they basically designed us a good Cadillac, okay? Looking at the dollar figures that came in within that, and so it was, we made a decision to go back and do a valued engineering session on it, which is always a good deal to do, make sure we got the right stuff in the right place and we're doing everything. Yes, it won't tell us if we're doing it for the right reason, but it'll tell us whatever we tell people to build, that they're building what we want. So we have a report that came back on the valued engineering session. It's about 1 inch thick. Who do we have with CDM tonight? Just give us a brief rundown on the valued engineering session. By the way, within that session, there were several of the board members that were able to make that, at least the first day of that session, to give some input. I think Mr. Rue was there for all 3 days. Kent Shake Snyder, Benny Johnson, and myself. Just to see what they were going to do, make sure that it was a valued effort, because we did pay for it. Go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, my name is Robert Heath with CDM. I was one of the engineers on the original design team for this project. Like the chairman said, when the 30% design was completed, we were over budget, and the reasons for that are we designed the project originally to conform with all of the Corps of Engineers standards, guidelines for pump station design. Following those, you end up with a lot of redundancy and a lot of real high-end equipment that in this case may not be 100% necessary when we're trying to keep to a certain budget. So what we did is we went back and we looked at certain things, that either redundancy that could be eliminated or equipment selection, things like that. And we ended up coming, the overall value engineering basically came down to going from around $50 million project for the construction of the project to a $16.7 million reduction to approximately $33.5 to $34 million. We're not losing any of the functionality. We're not losing any of the capacity requirements that were based on the hydrology study done previous to that. So, and we feel that because of the type of pump station that it's going to be with backwater concerns, that what we have here is well within standards as engineering guidelines that what should be built. So really the next step for us after everybody's review and questions, whatever you may have, would be to go to the 60% design, and at that point we'd of course develop another cost estimate based on the actual design up until that point. And that would be a concrete number as far as cost. This is the value engineering number, which I don't know what the uncertainty is in that, but I mean, this is a very thorough report if you take a look at it. But we'd have even more in-depth cost analysis at 60%. If you guys have any questions about it, feel free to ask me, or I can give my card and you can call me anytime to discuss it if you haven't had time.
I would
to look
just
at
like
it.
to review that within the 10-year plan, that the budget estimate that was put in, the dollars that were put in for this project were $20 million. And that was, of course, a loose estimate. And I'm sure that without a design in front of somebody, they couldn't nail it down. And your first estimate was approximately $50 million, and through the valued engineering, we got down to $33.5 million.
Correct.
I think what's we got most of the low fruit. We picked most of the low fruit on the project, and I think that you saw that, through talking with Mr. Rue and going over that, what we wanted out of the project that we still have within it. Can you give us a brief summary of the project? That is basically the locks.
Sure.
What's
sure.
the pumping capacity? What's the flood stage that
Sure.
we're gonna? What year plan are we falling under, and what flood stage are we? 14 feet.
Absolutely no problem. I'll start from the beginning, I guess, what was the original reason for the project. As everybody knows, there's a backwater issue on Bayou Henderson during high Amite River levee stages, and we determined through discussions with the Drainage Board and Mr. Rue that, and also other information such as the topography of the area, that the ideal location to put something to prevent the backwater would be at the area we have it now, which is a natural ridge of about elevation 14. So what we basically are providing is backwater protection for stages in the Amite River up to elevation 14. Now, unfortunately, due to the natural topography of the area, it's not possible to really get any backwater protection beyond elevation 14 because that's the natural high ridge in that area. Anything above 14 would short circuit around the pumps, the gates themselves, and it would just be inundated anyway. So there's really no way to provide up to 100-year elevations, which is, I believe, off the top of my head, 15 feet or 15.5 feet, one of the two. I can answer that question for you later if you'd like. But so we had to stop at elevation 14. That was really, we were tied down to that because of the natural topography. So when you install a gate like that in an area like that that has people, residents living there, you don't want to cause any additional problems when there is a rainstorm event coincidentally with the backwater event. So we, through the analysis, the hydrology and the hydraulic analysis of the bayou with the gate in place, we determined that a 1,000 CFS pump station will be able to handle the a rainstorm event of 5 years. So basically we are providing 10-year backwater, which is elevation 13.5. We're up to 14, so we have half foot of freeboard, and flow of a 5-year storm coincidentally. So that pump capacity could be raised in the future, but that would be additional cost. We decided through conversations with the board and with Mr. Rue that the 5-year, 10-year combination was the most justifiable at this time and also the most economically possible at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Lohr.
Well, just curious about value engineering. Is that specific to CDM, or is that something that's common in the industry?
Common
very
in
common.
industry
It's very
wide.
Okay.
It's actually something that
Good business
CDM on a
practice.
project of this size would have done internally, but because of the fact that we were that far of a budget, we felt it very valuable to have the client input also. We always do a value engineering just to make sure that there's not redundancy that unnecessarily, and there's not, you're meeting the client's needs. There's, like was said, there's Cadillacs and there's other types of cars. We wanted to make sure we specifically gave you guys, the client, the board, exactly what they were looking for. So.
Mr. Chairman, have we looked at doing this on other projects, or can we make sure we do
I would
going
think
forward?
that it would have been done in the past, but
Okay.
definitely in the future it should be done on all projects. It's within your design budget. Most of the time they have some slots in there, depending on what stage you are for valued engineering. You're paying for the service, so it's an exercise that must be done.
Well, I'm glad to see that we got it down at least $16.5 million, a little closer to, the 33 is a little closer to our budget. Hopefully we can make that happen. I certainly want to see Henderson Bayou go forward, so.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I attended one of the days on the value engineered study, and I was very impressed with how they went about it, and basically they just had more people that they bounced different things off of, different ideas, and stuck to the program. And it's sort of like if you take electric windows or you want to roll up your own windows and save hundreds of dollars. Well, in this case, it's millions of dollars. And so there was a number of different things that they saved in, and I really appreciate you going through the process, and I strongly encourage us doing that on all big projects from now on out. A couple of questions. You said it was 1,000 CFI. I thought it was going to be 1,500.
That's the capacity that we're allowing for future capacity. 1,500. Right now it's
You can upgrade the pumps to 1,500.
Okay.
It's at 1,000 right now. 2 500
No.
cubic feet per second, right?
Well, actually, we had it at 1,000 CFS with a bay left there to add more
Oh, I
pumping
see.
capacity.
Okay.
Now, we eliminated that extra bay and changed the pumping capacity to 2,750,
Yeah, that's what I.
which gave us
that's-
1,500.
I'm sorry, I apologize. That's
Right.
correct. The value
Yeah,
engineering,
I
one of
thought
the
I
things in the
understood
value-
that as being one
And
of
we
the.
actually gained, it cost us less money by eliminating the bay and
And-
going with 750 give us 1,500 than we had with the 1,000 and having an extra bay.
Yeah,
I
I remember,
apologize again.
I remember the discussion on that, and I was wondering whether it was still in there. Okay, well,
We
that,
went to two 750s. Now that he said that, it reminded me that the two 750s, now that we've reduced that and eliminated that last bay, which was part of the value engineering, that's going to be the ultimate capacity of the pump station. So,
Okay.
so 1,500 still is the ultimate capacity. We're not allowing for an unused bay. Now, in the future, it could be added on to,
yeah.
but it's not going to be sitting there waiting. That was one of the things that was developed in the original design that was cut out by the value engineering session. So.
And I guess the other thing, you know, Bill, as you're looking at these designs and everything, have we looked into, you know, I know we're still over our budget that we're shooting for. Is there any other types of designs or anything that could be possibly made that would reduce the cost or anything? Is there feasibilities out there?
Well, the only way that you can, I guess, analyze is something like that is to actually have someone do another design, a whole different type of design, and different from this configuration, and look at both of them, compare the two. And again, this is, I'll give you an example, the pump station at McElroy, Marvinboro Pumping Station, is a different type of design as this one, and I'm sure there's other ones if you go around the world. But for us to really look at the two, we almost have to get a separate company to do another total design, or at least a 30% design of something else, and give the cost of it and look at the two.
But
Well-
at some point, you know, we've got to decide that what we're looking at meets the needs of what we want, okay? And, you know, just stop going around the table and we go forward with doing, you know, next phase of design. So I would suggest that, you know, we all have a part in it, all 10 members, but the major stakeholders that are in that area, we look at what are we protecting against? What's the backwater we're protecting against? What's the ability to pump out with the gates closed? You know, what's the maximum capacity of the canal to move? We had that.
That was based on the hydraulic analysis at Clemson, some of that
We also
information.
did that, off the top of my head, I want to say it's 2,800 CFS. It's around, it's in there, in that ballpark, 2,600, 28. I don't have the hydraulic analysis
Okay.
in front of me, but it's in that neighborhood. Our pump station designed based on the routing of a storm through the pump station. It doesn't provide called run-of-the-river maximum flow capacity, because with the storage that's available, you don't have to have that large capacity.
Okay, thank you.
And to comment on that, just to take off where he left off for the capacity, the idea is too, for us to take the Henderson Bayou from Henderson Bayou Road all the way to the pumping station, enlarge that of
Right.
twice the size, and have that function also as not only, I guess, a benefit for regular drainage where we don't need the pumping, but also to act as a retention area to pump down prior to a storm and give us that capacity to store with the storm.
They talk
that's
about
gonna
using the
help.
channel as reservoir
Use the
instead
channel,
of
open it
building
up
a
at least
reservoir.
twice the size, and use that as
You-
a storage area.
You also have a large amount of land that you're purchasing within this pumping station that,
The part of the low line area, we're going to hopefully utilize that also as the as capacity storage. But again, if we open up the canal, we just give that additional amount and benefit us both in regular drainage and in time we need pumping.
and we realize this book's a lot to consume, and we're not going to ask anybody to consume that tonight. It's just, this is the latest, came out late last week, and that's where we at right now. Yes, sir, Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, we're looking at a 10-year plan here, you know, is what the $33 million on the table is now. What would happen if we had a 25-year storm or a 50-year storm if we build this project like is for a 10-year storm?
Rainstorm.
How much, yes, sir, how much protection are we gonna have for our people? What I'm saying is, if we're gonna undersize this thing, a 10-year storm is not far, you know, we've had them especially coming off of Amite River with the backup. That happens, you know. And I'm concerned about a 10-year storm compared to, you know, if we're going to spend $33 million and just have a 10-year storm and not be high enough or capacity enough, I'm a little concerned about, you know.
Well, let me try to address it as best as I can. If the gate's closed, that's the only time that the pump station is going to run. Right now, the river itself's got enough capacity for a 10-year or 100-year storm. And I'm not talking about localized flooding upstream that might be because of channel constrictions,
Right.
just things like that. I'm talking about where the pump station is actually being built. So the only time the pump station would ever operate would be if the gate was closed because of a backwater event. So a 10-year backwater event possibly could happen at the same time as a 10-year rainfall event. If that was the case, the operational procedures that would be developed as part of this design would dictate the operations. But right now, my assumption what would happen is at a certain point when the water inside of the upstream of the pump station met the water outside, say it was only 8 feet of backwater.
Right.
At that point, we have those slide gates that will allow the equalization of two sides, and we'd open the gates up. So you wouldn't really, you may run the pumps for a while, but if the water is overwhelming your pumps and getting higher and higher, when it meets the outside
So
level.
at that point, some
you'd open the gates up.
flooding will take place because
Well, no,
of
not
that
necessarily.
situation.
If the water outside the gates, say at elevation 7, and we have a 10-year rainfall event, when the water surpassed the pump capacity and got to elevation 7, we could open the gates, and it'd be just like there was no gate there in the first place. So you'd have the same flow capacity that there would be if there was no gate structure there.
So it'd be the same.
It'd be the same thing.
Same thing that we have now when we have a flood like that.
Right. We're
So
close
the
to
upstream people would feel the effects. So at that point, this plan is not going to help us
well,
100%,
I don't
you know.
think that
past 10-year flood.
Wouldn't help. I don't know. There may be a scenario you could
It
think
might
that would help,
help, yeah, a
but
little.
you know, it's going to be able to clear any water out faster. And then once we open the gates up, we're going to have the same flow in that river that we would if there was never anything
We
built.
didn't have any project there yet.
Right. Now, the pump would never operate with very low levels in the Amite River, and the gates would never close at that point. So you would never have to worry about any impact because of rainfall events if there's not a high backwater event. I know this is kind of backwater, it's confusing, but if the worst case scenario, the
That's
Amite
what we're
River's
looking at.
elevation 13, and we have the gates closed, the water on that side, on the other side, would get to elevation 13, just like if there was no gate there. The water would be elevation 13 if there was a gate, if there wasn't a gate upstream. So we really, and you know, that's not, when you're designing a pump station, you don't design for that scenario, but that is worst case scenario. If we have the gates closed and it's a 100-year storm event, that's when you're dealing with percentages, 10-year, 25-year, you're dealing with percentages, you know.
Yeah, 'cause
what's the chance of a 100-year and a 10-year? Approximately, statistically, a 1,000-year storm event, a 10-year backwater.
You know,
100-year.
the 83 flood would probably affect
Probably
this.
fall
and
right in
probably
there, you know.
You would have to
Every
leave the
5 years,
gates
you have a
open.
1,000-year event. So, but that's if that answers that,
That's
I
just
don't
a
know.
concern, yeah. Appreciate it.
But in best case scenario, right now, it's designed for 14 feet.
Well, 14 feet is the
With
top
the-
elevation.
The top
It-
elevation, so it's 13 feet.
13.5 feet on half foot freeboard, and like I said, we're limited because of
Right.
the ground. The actual station itself is being built to elevation 16, which is above
Right.
the 100-year flood, so that it would protect the equipment
Right.
in case of a 100-year.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Shakes now.
Bill, the Marvin Road Pump Station, its capacity is, what, 5 to 10%?
Well, actually,
10-year?
10-year. Actually, the design capacity of it when Follett put it in was actually 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was
based on the
designed at a
plan
5-year, and the benefits are tremendous. I mean, you have to kind of line the stars up to make it not be very, very valuable in that situation, even if it's a 5 to 10-year design.
Let me, for clarity, in most cases, the way a storm acts on Ascension Parish and Amite River, in most cases, the pumping station would be acting as a floodgate only. because you usually get your floods several days after your major rain. And so you're not looking at headwater, you're only looking at backwater. And at that point in time, you just use it as a floodgate unless you get rain at the same time. But like I said, historically, there's no rain when you get into your backwater flooding, except for Allison and a few other events.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Yeah,
Dempsey Lambert.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their participation in this. And I'd also like to let us go to the 60% design no later than February, March. I don't want to sit, somewhat talk us our way out of a project here that's needed. I just, whatever y'all can do to look over this as soon as possible, it's deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Root, could you possibly review this and send out to all the members of the board some observations of your own within this report?
I can, Mr. Chairman. I also recommend, again, depending on the wishes of the commission, it may be prudent for the commissioner, for the chairman to form maybe a small committee to sit with me and review the value engineering and the project and bring that recommendation back to the full commission.
We'll do that. At what time do you want to do that?
Is that your pleasure, sir? Whenever
Okay.
y'all can put a committee together.
That's what we talked about this evening, so.
I'd be happy to make a presentation to that committee also. if
Thank
you'd
you.
Like that.
We have any members of the board that would wish to serve on that? Mr. Lambert? Mr. Johnson? Mr. Shake Snyder? Mr. Lambert? Let's see, make sure I got everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I would too.
Okay. All right. I would like to appoint or have someone head up this subcommittee as a chair. Do I have any?
Mr. Todd Lambert.
Todd, you want to chair that?
I will.
Okay, you can look at the calendar, we got a couple dates open, I don't know when, just let me know, I'd like to sit in with you guys also on that.
All right.
Thank you, sir, we'll be getting in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Let you know when.
One last thing before I go, though, if I could. Anybody who's interested to get the summary of this, the executive summary summarizes most of the main points. I think that's probably the most valuable thing for you guys to read. The back is just appendices, so
Yeah,
if you take a look at that. Okay, thank you.
any other questions on that? Next, we'll move into item C, and the way I've got it written down there is we've got a brief history of the East Ascension Gravity Drainage District Number 1. And I've asked a couple of guys that should know pretty much exactly how it all went. Parish President Martinez and our General Manager, Mr. Rue, to please give us a presentation on this. And right now, this board has seen a lot of people voicing a lot of opinions about whether intergovernmental agreements are good, bad, East Ascension drainage with parish, outside the parish. This board is made up of people that are trying to do the right thing. We're all up here representing people. We've got some people that we've hired, and our parish president is elected position that we need some input from you guys. We need some facts, and we'd like to take a look at that. And within this, I have a little supplement A, update on a pending intergovernmental agreement with the parish. All right. I have had I think, 5 meetings with Mr. Rue in it, Parish President, Mr. Grant, trying to take a look at if East Ascension Drainage went back to a total intergovernmental agreement with Ascension Parish, what would be the terms? But mostly what we tried to look at is, can everybody work together? And can we do it good? And is it best? Is it best for the parish, for the people? And is it good business? To this date, we don't have the facts in front of us. I plan tonight to charge a subcommittee, and I've talked to each one of these guys, Mr. Todd Lambert, Mr. Benny Johnson, Mr. Dempsey Lambert, Mr. Kent Shakesnyder, and of course, Mr. Chris Lohr. Okay? Participating in this subcommittee to just look at the facts, bring the facts back to us on this. Both the people of Ascension Parish government, and East Ascension Drainage, we have a lot of work to do. I would like to put this to rest one way or the other. And I would like for, I'm going to ask right now for Parish President, Mr. Grant, and your staff, finance, everybody, that I'm going to ask the subcommittee to meet. We have an open date in the parish, Madam Secretary, on the Thursday the 29th. And Thursday the 22nd and Thursday the 29th. Would you 5 guys be willing to meet on either one of those dates? What does that look like for you, Benny? Which one?
If it's okay with everybody, I have a conflict on the 29th. I'll be out of town. I'd certainly rather the 22nd.
Chris would rather the 22nd. That'll work for you, Benny?
22nd would be better for me as well.
Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary, could you see about booking this room for the 22nd at, well, I'm going to say 7 o'clock, because I'd rather a 7 o'clock meeting than a 6 o'clock, but I'm going to let these guys, I'm going to ask Vice Chair Dempsey Lambert, would you chair that subcommittee? And we'd hope, my request from Mr. Rue and Parish Council is to take in and look at the facts and see, we want to know what's the advantages, what's the disadvantages. We've had it both ways. Let's look and see what's fiscally correct for the parish of Ascension, the taxpayers, because they're paying the tab on both ends. We want to look at whatever legalities. All right? So that's all I'm asking right now. We hope to, within that maybe this subcommittee can report back to us by the meeting next month. Give us an update on where they stand. But they will be seeking some details out of you guys before they meet on the 22nd. Do y'all have any, you see a problem with that, Parish President?
No, I'm going to be at that planning session in Albuquerque that
Yeah.
day.
Well, that's all right.
That Mr. Grant can
Yes.
certainly, and Ms. LeBlanc can certainly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, as far as getting the information and getting it to the subcommittee.
Not a problem.
How about you, Mr. Rue? You see a problem with that?
No, sir.
Getting that information together? All right. Well, let's do some work for the citizens of Ascension Parish. And right now, I would like to welcome up Parish President Martinez and Mr. Rue. Let's give let's see where.
I'm gonna. We did a PowerPoint, and I'm gonna have Mr. Grant present it, and then I'll have comments after.
Yeah. And just to let everybody know, people that wanted to speak, I'm not holding you out. I would just rather let everybody talk, and then, I feel that your comments, some of your answers may have already been answered by then, and if not, then feel free. We appreciate your input.
Good afternoon,
Roll
Chairman,
that
members of the
beautiful
Drainage
bean
Board.
footage.
I've been asked to pull together some information from the various departments of our government and how we relate and deal with the Drainage Board. Quite honestly, this was an education for me. New guy on the block trying to learn the history of the Drainage Board and how it relates to us going forward. My presentation will include a brief history of the governance, the violations that the Drainage Board has seen, its finance and personnel. I will give you my administrative review of the fiscal results of separation, what I consider to be opportunities for improved accountability, and opportunities for improved coordination. On December 7th, 1948, the district was created by ordinance. The governing authority was the Parish Police Jury. Its boundaries encompass all of Ascension Parish and was separated into the east and west drainage districts upon the adoption of the Home Rule Charter. In 1988, the first major project began, the Marvin Road Pumping Station. And in January 1994, the district signed an intergovernmental agreement with the parish president to manage day-to-day operations of the district. This imposed checks and balances in full-time administration. Between 1995 and 97, another project was undertaken. The Sorrento Pump Station was built during that period of time. In February 2007, the district signed an intergovernmental agreement of separation from the parish oversight, and in that agreement include provisions for the joint use of assets, real and movable property, separation of personnel, and the parish provides administrative services under that agreement. In October 2008, the parish proposed an intergovernmental agreement with again, full oversight and administration. And then just last week, in January 2009, the parish proposed an intergovernmental agreement for 1 year of administrative support with full separation at year end. During the course of the Drainage Board's existence, there have been issues that have been worked and resolved. One is that there was a period of time when you found yourself in serious violation with the Corps of Engineers and others, and you were fined millions of dollars for wetlands violations. And in 1993, lost your dredging permit with the Corps of Engineers. The parish began to work through that process during that time period and began the re-permitting process back in 1998. What that allowed for is in 1998 and 2000, the dredging of Bayou Francois, Black Bayou, and Bayou Narcisse. And in 2002, you began a modeling project for Bayou Francois, Bayou, Black Bayou, and Bayou Narcisse. From a history of funding, ad valorem taxes. In 1949, a 2-mil property tax was imposed for 10 years by the electorate of the district for regular drainage works, basically O&M and upkeep of the system. In 1958, a 5-mil 10-year ad valorem tax by the electorate was then authorized, and that has been renewed in 1969, 79, 88, 98, and was renewed again in the last election in November in 2008. Also in 1984, a half-cent sales tax was approved by the electorate for major drainage. It included the ability to bond that revenue for those services. What I have done here is taken the period 1985 to 2007 from the audited statements of the Drainage Board to give you an aggregate overview of your revenue and expenses. The revenues that have been collected during that period of time, as you can see from sales and property tax and various other transfers and miscellaneous revenues, is some $258 million during that period of time. During the same period of time, your expenditures during that period of time equals some $57 million for personnel and related benefits, bond issuance costs, capital outlay, equipment, and the like of $172,619,000 during that period of time. This is the 10-year capital program that you often speak of, which is what you're on. This is the capital improvement program that you've put in place that is being undertaken. That's being funded by a couple of sources. One, a half-cent sales tax that became effective 12/1/84 authorized the ability for a 20-year bond at no higher than 15% interest to begin to fund those improvements, and some of that was undertaken. In 2007, you issued another bond issue that was basically $65 million, and it was covered not only by the half-cent sales tax but also by the ad valorem tax to cover those improvements. And that was issued through the Louisiana Local Government Facilities and Community Development Authority. And I need to make you aware that that was a 40-year bond and exceeded the general provisions of the 20-year bonding authority that the Drainage District had. So it was handled through this Facilities Authority to act as your agent to allow you to do that longer term. Here's the debt service on that bond issue that runs now from 2008 to 2027, ranging from about 1.6 million at 4% interest in last year to some 3.6 million at 4.5% interest in 2027. What's interesting about the bond issue, and I thought that you might like a recap of that, is that basically the total that was borrowed was $65.1 million. Total funds available for actual construction in that bond issue was some $60 million, with about $5 million of fees and the cost of issuance and the like. The total interest that will be paid for those bonds over the life of the bond issue is $59.5 million, for a total cost of the bond of $124,723,000. What I want to make you very aware of is that I looked into this very carefully. Currently, arbitrage is not an issue, but should these proceeds sit in the construction fund for more than a 3-year period, you are subject to arbitrage, which means that you will have greater cost of issuance in that sense. They were taken down in one lump sum and not in graduated issues. During the course of the period of 1992 to present, here's the personnel complement. As you can see, it's kind of gone up and down. You're currently about 92, give or take, employees that are currently working for the Drainage Board. There's been a bunch of talk over the past months about the fiscal results of the current separation agreement, and these figures have been talked about before, but I wanted to put them out to you as best as I have been able to discern from the statements I've been able to read. It's about 1.6 million increase in the parish costs from the Road and Bridge Fund from 2006 to 2007, and about 1.2 increase in East Ascension drainage costs from 2006 to 2007. The increase in Road and Bridge was funded by the 1-cent sales tax for the road construction fund, and the increase for drainage was funded by the half-cent sales tax. What I see here in my management analysis and what we've done with the rest of the departments contributing is some significant opportunities for improved accountability. We are about to implement an electronic work order system, and we've been working hand in hand with the Drainage Board on this, and we believe this offers us a significant opportunity for accounting of people's time and the like. And I know there were some issues about commingling of funds. I don't think, quite honestly, you'll ever get totally away from that, but I think that there's a significant opportunity here to properly account for people's time and where they spend their effort. There's certainly a significant opportunity for coordinated infrastructure development. As you undertake this 10-year plan, what concerns me is that one of the charges that I have in the coming years to create a road and bridge plan and a sewer and water plan, and I can't do that, quite honestly, well without a subsurface and stormwater drainage plan. Those things have got to work in concert in order to get the maximum return on the dollar for any infrastructure development plan. So I think there's a significant opportunity for that. I also see ongoing cost savings by elimination of service duplication in those cost controls I talked to you about earlier. And one of the initiatives that has come out of fleet and drainage that I think offers us both a great opportunity is coordinated GPS equipment tracking. We think if we can put that in place, we actually can document where people are and how they're spending their time and the use of our equipment and its running time and see some great efficiencies there. We also see opportunities for improved coordination with parish public works and drainage. And those are basically in the use of joint current drainage survey crews, the bridge crews, the right-of-way section, grass mowing, fleet management, which we've done a very good job of late, working closely with Mr. Calvert to get all of our fleet under control, floodplain management, and coordinated emergency management operations. The goal that we see here is nothing but opportunity in a positive light, as a way to bring us all closer together and maximize the use of these dollars. And I look forward to the meeting on the 22nd to provide this and any other more detailed information the committee might like to answer those
Yes,
questions.
sir, Mr. Grant. There's just a quick thing before anybody says anything. Is this presentation, could you please, and I talked to the parish president about it before, is just get a copy of this presentation out to all these
That'll be in your email.
members here, and I'm sure that there's probably people in the audience that would want some. Please contact your councilman or whatever your normal ways to get a copy of that. You did have some pages with more lines than I can read in about 3 seconds, So we appreciate that. And Mr. Rue,
Yes, sir.
please stay, Mr. Grant. Mr. Rue, you want to
I can just, from
give us your summary on the Ben's, the reason why I'm asking, I'm going to tell you folks, is Tommy Martinez has been involved in parish politics for 20 years, whatever, so he was in, and so was as a parish president prior, and Mr. Rue's been around. You were DPW director from what, 2000 to 2006, and then you
7,
became
yeah.
drainage director.
Yes, sir.
But before that, you had drainage and DPW.
Yes, sir.
And under 2 administrations.
Yes, sir.
2 full administrations. So give us a little bit of your history there.
Well, I can go back and just a little bit of exactly what Mr. Grant reported on is accurate. I don't really have too much about that, but I can fill in a little bit. When they formed the district, we actually had 2 districts in 1948. New River was a district, New River Drainage District, and also Burnside Community Drainage District. And they consolidated those 2 and formed the Consolidated Gravity Drainage District. And at the same time, the police jury had legislation passed to make the police jury ex officio commissioner of the drainage district. There's special legislation put into the state for that. In most cases, drainage districts throughout the state has a special commission, mostly, usually 5 members as per the law, handling commission business, and those people are appointed by the governing authority. But again, in Ascension Parish case, they had special legislation making them the commissioners. I guess the only other thing, and of course, Mr. Grant, when you look at it on paper, we did have an increase in drainage budget when we consolidate or separate it. However, that came as a result of when we actually did the revised budget for drainage and road and bridge. There was a additional 1.6 or whatever it was for road. But there was actually about, from the original budget that we presented in that year for 2007, whatever it was, we actually had about a $2 million or so reduction in the original budget for that year that was made in the year prior. And what we did, since when we revised the budget, I revised the budget, we saw where we had additional funds to operate with. That's when I made the decision to form the major channel improvement section of DPW, of drainage. And that's when we bought the 3 long reaches, and that's when we added about 15 people or 12 people to the payroll of drainage. And we actually used up the additional $2 million plus additional $1 million or so. So that's where that money came from. So we did have an increase, but actually formed a new section of DPW that we never had before, which is major channel cleaning. And that's what we do some of our major channel work today with. That came out of the result of having an extra couple of $1 million that was annually that we saw due to the separation. So that's where that money came from. So again, on paper, yes, we did have increase, but in practicality, it was actually using the money from the prior year. The other thing, which is, again, Mr. Grant is not aware of, we went back many years and looking at the whole problem, and I know Parish President knows about it. We always had the issue of roadside drainage and drainage that the drainage district would be in charge of. There was always a problem. Everybody said, well, roadside drainage is drainage, and a lot of your drainage goes to the road, and why shouldn't that be part of your drainage commission or your drainage district? There are many issues that come into play on that. One is the fact that you have state highways, and if you make a policy that highway ditches are part of the drainage district, well, now you're relieving DOTD and of the responsibility of maintaining your roadside ditches. That becomes the main, into the system of the Drainage Commission, and the Drainage Commission is in charge of doing that. You also have a problem with municipalities. If you make that determination, then the municipalities can say, well, you take care of our subsurface drainage because we go within the municipalities. So a decision was made many years ago to say, look, we're going to leave roadside drainage separate, put that with roads and highways, and we'll do outfall ditches, everything coming away from it. So that's part of the reason of that. I think it is part of drainage, but again, you have these issues that you have to resolve before you can really make the determination and actually put it in. Again, this has been a sore subject for many years. So basically that, unless I have any questions from any of you, I mean, that's about all I can say about the
I'm going to just ask Parish
the history.
President, you got anything that you would like to say on the history of it?
Yes. Mr. Grant, thank you for making that presentation. If you look back at the history, in 1948, basically it was one unit of government. I think you have an Attorney General's opinion that Mr. Hughes had asked for, basically says the same thing, that it should be one unit of government. I think Mr. Parrington, I saw an opinion from him that sort of disagreed with that. I disagreed with it. Let's just say there's no easy sort of, but you disagreed with that. So that's kind of still a question. On the roadside ditches, I think current District Attorney Ricky Babin issued an opinion saying that if a roadside ditch goes into a drainage canal, it can be considered part of drainage. So those issues are all still out there, still pretty much unanswered. Opinion is opinion. You can get one from 10 different people, and it may be that you get 10 different opinions. But anyway, from the history of it, it was the entire police jury was in charge of East Ascension drainage at that time, all 11 members. In 1957, I think, they created a West Ascension drainage. And in 1984, through a legislative act, it became East Side, only East Side jurors at the time would be in charge of East Ascension drainage, and West Side jurors would be in charge of West Ascension drainage, and they had their own tax, and East Ascension created a half-cent sales tax in 1984. And around in the late 1980s, there were several violations, 16 to be exact. We do have copies of all that for all of you that didn't serve then. I think the only person that served in some capacity at that time during the 90s was Mr. Lambert, I think was the only juror.
I wasn't a juror, I was a councilman. 96
councilman,
was the person.
yeah, you came in 96. So when we came in in 1991 as police jurors, we changed the form of government, of course, in 1993. But in 1992, we issued all these violations. And it was millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of fines that they wanted to charge us. It took us from 1992 to 1996 to settle all these things. At that time, there wasn't any drainage permits that were issued. It cost us, we did finally settle for about $350,000, and the money was spent in Ascension Parish. Also, during that time in the 1990s, when some people say nothing got done, we did start the current Sorrento pumping station, and did complete it in 1998. So those things it continued on. The money was spent. Every year the money was audited. Every year the money was accounted for. And till today, we can all get up and say there's commingling of funds. You're going to, at some point, as long as it's the way it is, going to commingle funds. But as Mr. Grant said, now with the new tracking system, you can track every job. You can track where every dollar went. You can track wherever that equipment is. So, again, that would bring some accountability to that, and also say, where the money was spent. But anybody who has any questions about that, we have records. They are free to come in and look at the records. There's Public Information Act that you can come in and ask for what you want to see. And we certainly do have those records, and we invite the public to come in and look at them. It's kind of tough to look around and continually get accused of things when there's no facts to base that. I mean, if everything that being said would be true, I'm sure a lot of us would be in jail at this time. So it's easy to throw out those remarks. And a couple of things that I also question is that when the proposition was passed in 1984, it said that the bonds should not be bonded for more than 20 years. Yet we turned around and we bonded them for 40 years. And again, we're paying for every dollar we spend on construction, we're paying $1 in interest. And what happens is you basically circumvent it what the will of the people was, because the people said in 1984, according to the Follett plan, that you should not bond the money for longer than 40 years. Well, there was a mechanism that you could go ahead and do it, and you're going to pay dearly by doing that. Again, I'm not standing here and accusing anybody of doing anything illegal. I'm not saying that. Basically, it was not a good business decision. That's a business decision that I would not have supported. The other thing on the $5 million property tax, it was said to be that it was to be used for operations and maintenance. But yet we pledged that $5 million also for 40 years for capital improvements. So again, as I said, when it was away from parish government, you had 16 violations that had to be settled. You know, as part-time people, my whole concern is as part-time legislators, it's kind of hard to run a multi-million-dollar business. We think we can do a better job of it, but that's your decision. If you base your decision on facts and want to keep it separate, you know, it's okay with us. We're not going to be mad. We're not, it's just a business decision, as I stated Thursday, and I want it to continue to be a business decision. So, you know, whatever you think, that's what you are elected for, to make these decisions. But again, the problem is that when the Home Rule Charter was passed, the drainage issue was not addressed, and it created confusion. We signed in the governmental agreement that we said would work. I think it did work, and I said I'm proud of the record of what was accomplished in drainage when I was parish president the first time. I can go back. I'm ready to sit down and discuss it with anybody. I'm willing to pull whatever records they want to pull, and I think they'll see that a lot was accomplished then. So with that, again, this decision is going to be based on facts, hopefully, and you look at the facts, and you hopefully can make a rational decision. And again, whatever decision you make, we're going to support.
Thank you. Mr. Rue,
I
yes,
just
sir.
want to expand on the parish president, to give everybody the really good idea of how things functioned many years ago. When it was actually, you had the $5 million, really just regular drainage, and the parish government took care of it. It just under Public Works. After you passed the millage and you formed, you know, based on the Follett plan, you're getting into all these major projects. You actually formed the major drainage. Major drainage was pretty much separate. They were just basically governed by the drainage board and the drainage chairman. They had actually they worked shift work in some cases. For many years, they actually did the main construction of the channels and things like this. But they were pretty much formed because of the half-cent sales tax doing major drainage work. So that, but the regular drainage was still pretty much handled by parish government, like it's always been under Public Works and everything. And again, like the parish president said in '84, when it came into the present form of government, but then it was kind of combined with total administrative authority over it. But that gives you a little idea of how they functioned under the police jury system at the time.
Yeah.
So.
You know, and I guess if you guys have got, that's basically what you want to tell us about the history. Is once again that I charge you guys, you are full-time employees of the parish of Ascension, and we are part-time, and we're dedicated. We come forward here to represent people, and we want to know what the facts are. So please, any facts requested by the subcommittee, please do whatever you can do to get forward with them, meet with them, and do what we can. I just want to put it to bed. I urge anybody in the public I don't know where all the money went. I could probably, you could give me a stack of all the audits. Take me probably 6 months to 8 months to go through them. Okay. I'm gonna just ask everybody, please leave the politics out. Let's try to do what's right for the parish of Ascension. Let's spend the taxpayers' dollars to the best it can be spent. And I ask that truly of the folks that are full-time in here. One thing we need, probably a little bit more, a little bit of information sharing toward the commissioners here on what we, whatever, everything that's going on. And so we're going to try that. Now, I want to recognize the folks from the audience that would like to speak on this. First, we have Mr. Mitch Epps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you moving
Fine.
around.
Thank you very much. Mitchell Epps is my name, and I'm a retired professional engineer, and I feel proud to have been one of the original sandbaggers, was instrumental in promoting the half-cent sales tax to do the work that we've been talking about tonight. Good and bad has come out of this. I feel somewhat proud to see we got the half-cent sales tax passed, and it was part of the original program. I'm somewhat sad to see 25 years later, we still haven't finished the program. And this, in short terms, the program was to build 3 pump stations, clean out the major bayous, do some levee work and some piling, and that was to become the foundation for the drainage program at that date. And which is just like building a house. You build a foundation and you build on it the house as you go forward. And having worked with Mr. Follett personally at the time, that was a concept to design the capacities of the pumps, the drainage canals and everything to meet the water conditions at that time. And as the parish grew in population, as it has, enlarged the lengths of the bayous to further reaches the north and west of the parish, enlarge the pumps. You may have to add an extra pump here and there, but that would be the building block. But to build a basic foundation again was to go and cost, I say 40 million, 37 was the actual number that was in the Follett study. And it was to be completed in about 10 or 12 years. 25 years later, we've spent 130 million and it's still not complete. And that's spending less than $1 out of every 3 that's collected towards the Follett major drainage program. And that's the sad part about it. And hearing y'all talk tonight, y'all are in the driver's seat, and due respect to our taxpayers, and I hope they're listening tonight, that y'all going to get the ball and run with it, and let's finish what we started, and let's spend the money where we told the taxpayers we're going to be. It's a moral obligation. And how you expect to go to them in the future when you want roads, you want sewer systems, and ask them for money when you set an example. And I'm not talking about you individually today. There's plenty of blame to go around in past government regimes, where it be police jury, council member with parish presidents, plenty of blame to go around where the money went. It's gone now, and I feel that you have a moral obligation. The biggest thing left is the Henderson Bayou pump station in the Follett study. And seemingly what I hear tonight from y'all, you plan to go forward with it. I was hoping to hear a resolution more firm than that, that you intend specifically to go forward with it, not just talk about it. Because we've seen enough talking in the past, and I think the taxpayers have too. And I think they're beginning to look now, seriously, y'all carrying out what you're talking about. So in summary, that's about it. I want to like to thank the members of the Sandbaggers that I work with, and I would like just take 1 minute to read just a couple of sentences, and I want to give you a copy of what the voters approved in 1984 and provide a copy from y'all if you haven't seen it. But in short, just a couple of sentences, the word dedicated. It was a dedicated tax for the purpose of constructing, acquiring, maintaining, operating gravity and or force drainage facilities to drain lands in said drainage district in accordance with engineering plans and specifications officially adopted by said drainage district and then contemplated by the drainage plan set forth in the study and report dated March the 15th, 1982, prepared by Prescott and Follett and Associates Consulting Engineers. So it's specific. That was what the money was to be used for. There's no ifs and ands but about it. And I think we have, repeating myself, a moral obligation to do to the taxpayers what you told them you was going to do 25 years ago. I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And incidentally, here's the plan. And if you've never read it, I was able to make copies of the ballots for you. I'm not going to make you a copy of this. I think the Drainage Commission can afford this.
I believe we can afford that.
But if you haven't read this, you need to. It's a beautiful job of engineering. It shows the investment, financing, the everything's in this study. And if we'd have followed this study and put the pump station on Henderson Bayou where this said, we wouldn't have lost some more millions of dollars putting one in a location where it was the wrong location. It failed the first time we used it, and it's sitting there now restricting flow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next we have Ms. Catherine Gopper.
Thank you, gentlemen. I do appreciate the presentation that Cedric Grant gave. It's an excellent presentation, and I'd like to get a copy of it if I could. It's always good to look back in history, because they say that history repeats itself, and we make the same mistakes if we don't learn from history. So I think that's really important for us right now, to look at the history so we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. 2 years ago, when the parish president was replaced with a non-political manager under contract, it was discovered that $2+ million per year of the East Ascension drainage money was actually supplementing the parish-wide road department. Now, if they hadn't have separated, we wouldn't have known that. Conservatively, in a memo Bill Roos sent to you, and I give you copies twice, and I don't know if you've still read it.
I think everybody read the memo
Well,
now.
good. I'm glad to hear that.
I don't remember it word by word, but I read it a couple times. I got the gist.
Well,
of
I
it.
don't either, but I do know that Mr. Roos said in that memo that conservatively 10 to 15 million over the last 10 years had been spent on non-drainage related activities. And I also noted in Mr. Cedric Grant's presentation tonight, and this is related to the sales tax, but tonight he mentioned that even the $5 million money that is being collected was misappropriated, spent for projects. And I did have the ballot, and I reviewed it, and it says it's only to be used for operations and maintenance, not for projects. So we're kind of getting things all mixed up. But what really, appears to me in the whole situation, and I ask myself this question, and I think the citizens need to ask themselves this question: can politicians be trusted to use the money? Citizens should be wary to support future tax proposals, even if they're dedicated, looking at the past history in Ascension Parish, no matter what the money's for. I think it really is important that we use the money for what we say we're going to use it, not for something else. And it's well documented that all past parish presidents have used dedicated funds for things other than drainage. I do hope that you'll look carefully at the facts, and I have a few more things to say on another item, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next we have Ms. Cheryl Fontenot.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Cheryl Fontenot, 14114 Rose Hill Lane, Gonzales. Gentlemen, I want to remind you tonight that it has always been the history of the Drainage Board to pay the parish for administration fees. I have here a copy of the budget for 2006, which is before the Drainage Department was split from the parish. And if you go back and check from other budgets, previous budgets, you will find in the budget monies to handle payroll, etc. Whether or not the parish president manages the drainage department or a contract is made with a separate entity, 4% or a figure close to that will be spent for the drainage funds for services. Y'all have to excuse me. I'm having trouble reading this. It is just part of operations costs. To use this 4% as a reason to place drainage back under the parish president is just a ruse to fool the people. It is a way of misleading them by making them think we are wasting 4% of their hard-earned money. It is being told to you that 35% of the parish time has been spent on drainage. I'm talking about administrative time, 35%. History through budgets will show that has been the case and will be the case whether the parish president is in control or the drainage manager. It is all part of operations, and our drainage funds are paying the parish to do this and have always. It is a necessary expense. History shows in the past that bulkheads, floodgates, and other projects have failed under former parish presidents. It is well known that the roadside ditches were cut with drainage funds rather than drainage canals that could move water out quickly. These things have been costly, and they are still in disrepair. Yet we have received no compensation. Drainage dollars have been wasted. If an election were held today and the people were given a chance to vote on this issue tonight, who would they elect to manage drainage? Would they elect Mr. Rue, who has done an excellent job with visible progress? Or would they elect our current parish president, under whose administration a very important floodgate was designed, failed, and a year after being in office is still not compensated for? History shows our tax dollars were washed away the first 4 hours of operation this floodgate because it was put in the wrong place. And that's an administrative error too,
Ms.
I would think.
Fontenot, I'm going to ask you to please, you comparing people here to...
I'm not comparing.
Yes, you are, ma'am. I'm trying to respect you as much as I can, please, and I do respect
What did I say, Mr. Cluett?
that
Correct
basically
that.
Mr. Rue and Mr. Martinez.
They're sitting here and they're part of the plan.
Yes.
Having had to sandbag my house during the Hurricane Juan, I can tell you, I would vote for the current general manager. I liked his progress and his plan. That is why I voted for the renewal of this drainage tax. Think about it, guys. What about the people? Did you run to serve them or yourselves? No more politics with drainage. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have, let's see, Otto Courtney.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Otto Courtney, and I live in Galvez Farm subdivision. I've had some sandbagging experience myself. And I bring y'all no facts and figures, or only my opinion that we need to keep this drainage board independent, and we need to get that Henderson Bayou business straightened out. 25 or 26 years since '83. And we hadn't seen anything that helped us out. But Ms. Depp said the original cost is the cost now is much higher. The longer we delay, inflation is going to continue. it's another 20 years before you do it, I'd hate to think how much it'll cost. Mr. Martinez says about bonding money. For every dollar's work you do, pay $1 of interest. Well, I think the inflation is more than that. I've heard it said that we're putting cost on our descendants for what we're doing now. Well, if we do it right, our descendants will get the benefits of what we do now. So it'll be justified for them to help pay for it. So that's my request. I think the independent board is getting more work did, at least from my limited experience. And you need to make sure that this thing that you build will do what we need it to do. In '83, the level of the river was over 14 feet in Port Vincent, I know. And I don't know what the level would be where it was built. But I don't see any sense in spending a lot of money for something that's not going to do what we need it to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We have any council members that would like to question any of the folks that got up and spoke about the history? Yes, Mr. Bell.
I too would like to thank Mr. Grant, President Martinez for putting their plan together, Mr. Rue. They did a good job. I just have a couple questions that jump out at me. I guess it's educational, like Cedric said. What kind of business deal this would be to bond $65 million and pay back $60 million for a total of $125. Maybe I misinterpreted what you put up there, Cedric. And we'll learn more after the subcommittees meet. Bill, about 2 meetings ago, you had made the statement in 2013 drainage would be down to $500,000. Is that still hold true, or?
Are you talking about our operational budget?
Operation, that's correct.
If you assume, we did the 5-year study, projections showed that if there is no increase in revenue whatsoever in 5 years,
right,
and there is an increase in expenditures of 2 to 2.5% or so
Annually.
Mm-hmm. Then obviously every year you're taking that from your budget or your fund balance. And in about 3 years from now, if it keeps going like that, again, absolutely no increase in revenue from last year, then yeah, you've done ate up your fund balance, and you're getting to the point where you're either gonna have to start cutting back or find new revenue sources.
I see. And keep in mind, I'm just asking for my benefit.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I guess I'll refer to yesterday's newspaper article by Mr. McMillan, where you had stated that you would be comfortable with everything coming back under one board. Was that a misquote, or is that?
This is part of a total, I guess, a little bit more in-depth conversation over time with Mr. McMillan. I do see that personnel working under parish president has somewhat of benefit in that it's less political for directors. In that, of course, obviously, you can turn the political part of it over to the parish president or the chief administrative officer, and you have a little buffer. Whereas in a position now, working directly with the council or the commission, you don't have that buffer. So in that sense, yes, it would be beneficial to me personally to have someone to I can go to and say, and excuse me for this, but basically say, get the councilman off of my case, and because this is more political than operational. But other than that was the concept. The statement, the gist of the statement.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, that's it. I'll save any other comments till I come through with the subcommittee, and I'll learn a little bit more as we go. Thank you.
Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, talking about a little bit more history. Last council meeting, we had a contract come to us saying that December 31st of this year, that drainage would have to leave the premises of DPW. But just to give a little back history on this, major drainage funds built several buildings at DPW. The auditorium was built by major drainage funds, if I'm not mistaken, several maintenance shops. So I see it hard, find it hard to make that statement. I don't know if DPW is going to have to come up with a certain amount of money to pay drainage if they leave the premises, because they own part of them premises that they're occupying as we speak. And Bill, at the council meeting, we had a little concern about the 4%. How much money does this 4% actually come up to in dollar-wise that we are paying parish
I think
government?
we budgeted, and again, we've got the chief financial officer here, and, but basically, I think it's budgeted about $5.6 million. I mean, $560,000 for this
Okay.
2009.
And I think at the time of the split, we went out because we were determining whether or not we were going to let parish government do all our payroll and audit it and everything else. We decided to go out and see what it would cost us, independently, and I think we did. And I don't know if you still have numbers on that.
Well, actually, because, that the subject was asked of me, and I revised some of the estimates that we did back a couple years ago. And basically what we were looking at back then, revised to today's numbers, was hiring about 6 people, administrative people, basically a CPA in charge of the financial department, and also a working CPA, working in the department, accounting clerks, purchasing, combination clerks to help out. It'd be one unit, financial unit, doing purchasing, HR, a generalist for HR with a clerk helping. So again, you're looking at about 6 people. And I upgraded those figures to about what it'd be worth today. And that comes to about $287,000. That's overhead and everything,
So
about.
I just want to clear that up because I had several
Well, in
councilmen were
addition to that,
concerned
I wanna-
about the 4%,
wanna
whether
make
or not.
everybody- Well, I want to make everybody
Yeah.
understand that in addition to that, we were looking at the time subbing out or outsourcing payroll totally. And so we got the estimates from a company that does that professionally. Also, the auditor, the safety programs, and the information technology help was looked at outsourcing all those functions.
Yeah.
Again, when you take away payroll out of the workload of the administration, that's an enormous amount of work that's relieved off of the administration. That came to about $60,000.
So we're looking at about 350.
So you're looking at about 350. Of course, you had a couple positions that you possibly can eliminate because you're reducing it down to only 100 people, 120 people, compared to the 300 some odd people that you're looking in total parish government. So you're looking at, it's not comparing apples to apples on this thing, because it's a very limited organization focused on one thing, and with maybe 1/3 the people of parish government. So again, the whole operation is reduced.
Okay. I just want to clear that up. That 4% is plenty. It's over the amount that we could get, outside help to pay for. And I guess the other thing is the legal issue. The tax was dedicated, and we've used it for many other things. And I just want to, the legal aspect is what, I know there's opinions, like Mr. President said, but it is in this piece of information that Mr. Epps give us that's dedicated for certain things at half-cent sales tax, and that's where the majority of our funds come from major drainage, and so that I'm concerned about, and we may want some legal advice when we have this subcommittee also. Thank you. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Anybody else? Mr. Lohr.
Actually, a couple things. First, about the bond itself. Mr. Parrington, the question was raised about the 40-year, the fact that it was bonded for 40 years, possibly not exceeding the commission's authority and that not being illegal. Do you have any comments on that?
I don't have any comments because the commission employs bond counsel, who specifically who handles all the bond matters. I don't do any bonding or know anything about bonds at all.
Okay. Can I ask the veterans who were here from the last council what the thought process was on that? It's just, again, it seems, again, the $60 million that we're paying for every dollar we're paying, and we're paying in interest, and we're kind of saddled with $1 million.
That was based on recommendation from our bond counsel and our financial advisor that was paid by the parish, that worked for the parish.
And I'm not.
And I don't know, if
Okay.
anybody ever bought a house, figure out your payback. I mean, that's how you pay for things to get done. I think we're in a situation now where we're looking at things that in the Follett plan was in 1984 dollars. And if you bought a car in 1984, you owe the people it was, $3,000 to $5,000 and try to go buy one for that now. So, I mean, all these numbers are just not going to be
They can't be compared one to the
compared
other.
for one another.
Well,
And
I
have my
agree, and,
thoughts on that. But it was, to answer your question, it was based on the recommendations of our financial advisor and the bond counsel that was working for the parish.
Okay. It just, I mean, speaking of numbers, we had $22 million in the drainage fund. I'm not against, at the time the bond was done, I'm not against doing projects with capital improvement projects and floating a bond. It's just the terms themselves, I think with that much in the bank at the time, we perhaps could have done a better job. So that's, I was just wondering what the kind of the thought process was behind that. But while I still have the floor, let me move on to my big thing. I'd like to ask that Cedric and Bill bring to the subcommittee is regarding duplication of services and equipment. That really stands out at me. It always has in this question. Question that we're dealing with. I'd like specifics on that because conceptually, to me, it's always bothered me that we would run a business like that we would branch off and have completely separate organizations basically underneath the same roof. I mean, everybody around here wants to see drainage money used specifically for drainage, and obviously, there's a lot of great comments around that. But at the same time, we also want to run as efficient an operation as possible and not create separate bureaucracies or anything like that or anything. So there was a lot of questions last week, actually, at the last council meeting about that. There were some concerns from folks about, because we're adding positions if we are, creating a bureaucracy. So if there are ways that we can provide more efficient services to people, then I think that is the most wise use of taxpayers' money, and we can use drainage money. We'll have more drainage money to do more drainage projects with. So I'd like to hear from that on the subcommittee. I'd like to hear more details about the percentage of time spent with some cost figures. And I think the committee should also consider the whole roadside ditch issue that seems to have been a problem for a while. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it would behoove everybody on this drainage to look at this from a neutral standpoint and what is the best for the taxpayers' money. It's said several times here tonight already, it is a dedicated tax. Parish President mentioned, the fact that, we talked about misuse of funds or what have you in the past. It's already been stated several times, and I'll state it again. When we did split, $1.6 million, $2 million showed up extra in the drainage. Now, where was that money? It was being used to supplement salaries of other people within the parish organization. So when Mr. Rue ended up with extra money, naturally, he used it wisely in my mind, and we bought equipment and hired a few extra people to run it and what have you. And we got most of our major drainage canals started on the road to recovery and cleared. Joint services law. It's a law. It's LS Revised Statute 33-13-24-1. I'll just give you one excerpt. In order to effect economy of operation, any two or more political corporations or subdivisions may contract with each other to combine the use of administrative and operative personnel and equipment upon such basis of compensation thereof as may be mutually agreed by all such political corporations and subdivisions. Very simple. We had an agreement in place. Last week we got an agreement that disturbed some of us here on the council, disturbed me, especially when the agreement ended with the eviction of the drainage department out of the DPW building. Cooperation in joint services is the intent of the law, to avoid duplication, to avoid waste, to save the taxpayers some money. Trying to evict the drainage board from our own premises is basically an attempt to waste taxpayer money. The proposal by Parish President Martinez is designed to waste taxpayers' money, period. It will not improve the services any better. It will not fix any problems or complaints, since there are very few at the time. And it will not save the taxpayers any money. It will cost them money. And let's not act like there's something wrong here with the sharing of resources. There's not. First, the law provides for it. Second, across this parish, joint services and cooperative endeavors exist and are accepted and done every day by us. And they work for the people. Think about it. The parish pays for the jail, not the sheriff. The parish pays for the sheriff's office that's in the courthouse. The parish pays for the courthouse. The parish pays for the judge's office in the courthouse. The parish pays for the mental health board facilities. The parish pays for the rent of the offices of the district attorney, which we swore in today, a brand new one, Ricky Babin. The parish works with the tourist commission I saw recently, where we're even keeping, and we're custodian of their records and keeping their records for their employees, and also keeping their minutes to their meetings. The parish pays for 95% of the economic development board. Yet no one is advocating we divorce ourselves from any of these entities. And I'm certainly not one of them that would do that. But this proposal is patently ridiculous, because it is us that we are being asked to do is to vacate our own premises. We as a council, we sit in both situations, do not govern any of the others that I've named, but we govern the drainage. And we are the drainage board, as we are the council. We would not vote to gut any of these other agencies, but we would vote to gut ourselves. And I want to know why. I mean, it's really ridiculous for us to sit here when we've got a 2-year track record where it has worked very effectively. Very effectively. We're saving money, we're utilizing what we're having, and the people are getting the best bang for their buck. And I'd like to see it stay that way. So I urge this special committee to do their homework, to make sure you know what you're getting into, and to do it for the people and not for yourself.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lohr.
Well, I was listening to Councilman Valentine's comments. A couple of things. One is the Sheriff's Office and the Mental Health Board and all these other organizations that we do interact with and do have agreements with aren't all under the same roof, as I believe we are, even if it's one building that we were discussing right now. So I think there's some difference there from an administrative standpoint. And I was just thinking, what if, about roads and drainage, right? The biggest issues that we have in this parish. We have 2/3 of the half-cent sales tax is dedicated to road improvements. I don't think any of us are satisfied with roads, obviously, and there's been a lot of discussion about hopefully trying to increase funding for roads in some way. If we did that, perhaps what if we broke off and had an East Ascension road district? Would that be the best decision for the parish? Well, it sounds good on the face of it, but does it sound good when you have to look at hiring additional people, administrative staff, to do the same thing, and additional equipment, and versus utilizing what you have, economies of scale? I mean, if people aren't satisfied with the progress of drainage or roads, I mean, it's on us. I know we're talking a lot about administration, but it's on us and it's on administration. I don't know about creating individual fiefdoms, and I'm not, happy with the agreement either that was proposed, but I think it just goes to show that we need to make a decision. We need to work something out, and whether or not the decision in the first place was made for the best of intentions, or if it was a political decision based on the environment at the time, which was granted not the greatest, is a question that I'm still struggling with. So, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just remind Mr. Lohr that this is a tax that was voted on before. We're not talking about separating taxes now. If you want to clear everything up, we can call for a legislative audit, and we can come in here and audit for the last 24 years. It's fine with me. I don't have a problem with it. Point being is, we have what we have. It's dished out to us. We have to manage it the best way we can. And I've sat on this council. This is my 5th year. 2 years under Mr. Rue as the Drainage Board, the manager for the Drainage Commission, and I've sat under both philosophies. I favor this one. That's my opinion, and that's why I speak it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Mr. Law.
I mean, I guess that's it. The core question, then, one of the core questions, is our drainage progress and independent existence mutually exclusive? I mean, can you have both? And can you still make sure that we're using drainage money specifically for drainage? Those are the questions I want to answer.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was the one who proposed a question Thursday night about the 4%, and I'm glad Mr. Lambert cleared up some of that, but that's one portion of what the parish is providing service for us is finance, and that's one of the things that I'm looking for an answer for. I'm either way. I want to find out what's the right thing for the people, like Mr. Valentine and others have said. What's the best way? What's the way we get the most bang for our buck? And yet I see these letters to the editors. I'm getting emails where funds have been misappropriated in the past, and I'm still learning a lot about this. But if the $560,000 is what we're paying, we're also looking at utilizing GIS. We're looking at utilizing human resources as well as other functions of the parish. From my understanding right now, and it's one of the things that I've been trying to educate myself on with this as well, is that part of this was the goal of the split was when we found that 1.6 million or however much it was in surplus, but was to get away from the commingling of funds. But or in effect, the 4%, is that not still commingling of the funds? And now, is it may be a service, but it's also one of the things that it's still something that you're commingling the funds for. And if we're paying them $560,000 for $340,000 worth of service, who's losing money? Are we still not misappropriating funds? That's part of the questions that I have. I mean, if we're getting $500,000 worth of service, I want to pay $500,000 worth of service, whether it's to the parish or whether it's to an independent contract company or what have you. That's my goal in getting this, coming to a resolution on this, whether it goes back underneath the parish president or not. That to me is not important. The important thing is, just like what was pointed out here tonight, we get the most bang for our buck for the people of the parish. You know, if we keep referring to plans that aren't up to date, we've got in the FOLET plan, and utilizing it and coming up with the master plan that we're currently operating under. Those are the things that we need to identify, prioritize those activities underneath that, and get the most bang for our buck in getting those projects accomplished. And that's what, to me, my goal is, and I would like to think everybody else's is as well, as we go along through this process and make sure that we are doing what we can do for the people. But I think we have to come to the realization that if we start talking about the commingling of funds and the misuse of funds, we've got to be honest with ourselves as to whether or not we're doing the appropriate thing as it is now, whether you're talking about the bonding of the money, whether you're talking about the 4% being paid to the parish or what have you. And that's what I would like to see us do by this subcommittee. And it was my intention when I talked to the chairman a while back about setting up the subcommittee, that we get all of the information, whether it be pro or con, take the benefits of what we've learned in the past, whether it be with the split or prior to the split, and be the best that we can be for the service of the parish. And that's what I would like to see us accomplished by this subcommittee.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Mr. Shake Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple things. First of all, since we have everybody here from the Parish and Drainage Board, I've been here 5 years. About 4 years ago or 3 years ago, there's been discussions on and on and on about the GPS, brought up again tonight, that we can track people. I believe twice this commission and the council as a parish entity has voted to appropriate and to dedicate and implement GPS tracking systems in our vehicles, and it's still not happened. It's just a bone of contention of mine. I don't know what it's going to take to get it to happen, but it's the obvious wishes of this board and the parish council that happen. Because that's been excuses drawn out forever.
I think Mr. Rue wants to field that question.
I would like to implement
I can
that.
very simply answer it by saying it's ready to go. We chose a server for that, a company, and we all agree it's the right way to go, and we got everything ready. However, right now, because we're so involved with what is the status of the Drainage Board and the parish government, this has to be a joint venture between the two. And if the decision of the commission and the parish government is to separate completely, it's going to just muddy the waters if we go into this thing right now. If we stay like we are, or we go under parish president, or whatever the case, it affects this. So we don't want to go ahead and make the situation worse by doing a joint funding of this service and then have to separate it out and do something else later.
So you saying everything, all obstacles are taken away,
It's
and
ready-
this is
all
going
we
to
have
be
to
done
do-
as soon as this problem is solved?
We have the cost estimates, we have the cost savings, it is beneficial, we're ready to go. All we have to do is get the contract okayed by the Drainage Commission and the Parish Council, and we're able to go. Again,
I appreciate everybody's
we're waiting
efforts
for
that have
the
gone
decision
into
of the
this.
commission and the council to determine what is the status of the relationship between parish government and the Drainage Board before we implement it.
Couple of things. The 4%, that's something that was done before. We always did pay 4% to parish, whether it's separated or it wasn't. That's paid. And the reason it's 4% is because that's what they can get. Nobody's really looked at how much it actually costs. I think the going rate, Tommy, is I think 4% basically. The law allows 4%, so that's what the parish asked for, and that's what the Drainage Board, willing to complement the parish, has agreed to. Now, what it actually costs, no one really knows because we wasn't given any figures, but that's why it came to that. It's $560,000 at this point. Other costs that we paying, Mr. Rule, are we paying the maintenance costs, the parish?
All departments contribute to a maintenance fund.
And how much is the Drainage Board paying?
$125,000, I think, is our contribution. I think Road and Bridge is something like $113,000.
Yeah, so all different departments
something like that. It's a
pay
transfer
towards
to the
maintenance
fund, I think.
to fund their maintenance. So which, either way would be, and I'm saying this from the standpoint, I'm not sure what is the best thing to do. There are some parishes that have their drainage departments with the parish. That's very successful. Some parishes have it, a number of parishes I know have it completely separate. So, and it works very well. So,
You trying to clear up that number there, Mr. Rue?
Yeah, the actual maintenance cost for upkeep of the building is about $20,000. Okay. That's for the maintenance department to do improvements and keep the building up. The 100 or so thousand is for the major crane that's in the shop to fix equipment.
Transfer out?
Yes. So that's how you got to the 100,000.
okay.
Okay, we were just looking at the transfer out to the maintenance department was $125,000 for 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's not a true annual number.
Apparently, no. 20,000?
20,000.
It's transferred out because of the maintenance building. 125, say $100,000 is transferred out to improvements to the maintenance building.
Okay, that's something you bought.
120,000 is
All right, is
transferred
there any
out
other
to that.
costs?
So that
I'm just trying to-
125 is 20.
It's 20,000 as an annual fee.
If you weren't paying
100,000
for a crane.
is to the maintenance, to the bridge crane in the shop.
Okay,
And that's the drainage contribution to that crane.
okay. And what other funds are paid out?
Well, of course, we pay, our share of all expenses,
Okay. So basically,
telephone and utilities and
whatever it is, we pay for expenses.
mostly, yeah.
Basically pay the way. So, I mean, there is going to be some duplication of services, but the Drainage Commission does pay their way through this. We just want to make sure that that's important. Couple things. I'm curious to see there was a comment made about roadside ditches. If the parish, if Drainage Commission, Drainage Department comes back under parish administration, are we gonna take into account all roadside ditches? Are we gonna be responsible for that?
I made a comment about roadside ditches from an opinion that was received from Ricky Babin, and I can get a copy of that opinion too.
Well, I'm
and
just,
O'Neill, you may want to talk about that if you'd like.
That's,
I mean, I think what you
That's
said
something
was
that they
correct.
could-
Mr. Babin gave the opinion that if the roadside ditches became part of the major drainage system, then they could be, drainage funds could be used for that.
If they flowed into
Okay.
a major
yeah,
drainage
Ken, I
system.
think that's something that y'all can look at in
That's what
subcommittee.
the
Yeah.
opinion
Get,
all right,
see what
and-
y'all thinking is on that.
And then a couple more things. Mistakes were made in the past. People are here, I think all are trying to rectify them. I have all the confidence in the world in this administration, all the confidence in the world in Mr. Rue. I think we've got a good group either way. My biggest concern is just to put the guidelines in the right way to make sure that this works in the way it's intended. I think the split was a necessary thing in order for everybody to see where we stood. Everybody just had to stand back and enabled us to get back onto these major construction projects, which is what it was intended to do. I don't think we would have started on and going through the process that we've made. The bonding out of the money, again, the monies that we pay for now, 30 or 40 years from now, that $2-3 million is not going to be near about what they are now. So that's a standard practice. I'm a little bit concerned. We started out, I'm very dedicated to get Henderson Bayou as our next project done. I'm pushing that forward as quickly as we can. I think we all need to do that. However, in our rush to do something, we need to make sure we're very prudent. When we first came up with this, the cost was estimated at $50 million. We could have said, let's hurry up and get it done, and paid $50 million. By this drainage board asking them to go back and revisit, they did the value-added workshop, and they cut $16.5 million in 3 days, just by asking the right questions. And before I say, let's go with it now, I just want to make sure Mr. Rue goes out right now and asks some more questions, because maybe the right question may come up to save $5, $6, $7 more million, where we might be able to design these pumps like we've designed Marvin Bro's pumps, which is very simple, even simpler than this, and it may be for a cost that we save $5 or $6 million. We may have to spend $300,000 or $400,000, but we may save more than that. I don't know, but that's his area to ask. So I just want to make sure that we do ask those questions and do so in a very quick period of time so we can move forward. And that's why I was bringing that out, not to delay the project, but just to make sure that we spend the money properly. So with that, I'm waiting now for us to meet, get all of this information that we're getting, and try to make sure we get some guidelines, whether we go forward under the administration or as a separate entity. I think we need to get that information and make sure we have the guidelines. I do understand President Martinez's comments. If we would stay within the same building, we need to make some provisions where these employees are separate, where they can walk through their areas in comfort. They're under two different directors and everything. We need to make some changes and all there, even if we do so. There's a lot of questions that needs to be answered, and that's why I don't want to make a decision on what we're going to do right now until we answer all these questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cullen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, you had said earlier that drainage would be better off under the parish president. What was your reason for that? I didn't catch it. I wasn't.
Now, in a newspaper article, it was stated that that going back under the parish president would benefit me due to would relieve me of the political pressures that occur when you're at the top and you have no one else above you. So basically, that's what the comment was, which it would be. Again, I would have insulation from the politics of, in some way, the politics of government.
Okay.
That's all?
Yeah.
You come?
I didn't hear it.
All right. Anybody else? Parish President.
Mr. Parrington, a special service agreement that may be entered into, does not have to be entered into. A lot of the services that we have to provide now are mandated by state government, as far as the jail, feeding of the prisoners, as far as courthouse space, as far as the criminal court fund. There's no special services agreement there at all. That's a mandate from state government. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is a purely contractual agreement between the Drainage Board and the parish government.
Yes, and
But it is limited by the 4%.
that's right. That's state law. But as I said, we may enter into a special services agreement. That's correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I guess basically summarizing that, saying that the administration agreement is optional by law. And by law, the maximum that anybody can charge any other governmental entity is 4% within state law. Thank you. Anybody else? All righty. Well, look, once again, I would like to remind that basically, as a board over East Ascension Drainage and as council members, and we ran for council, and that's why we're sitting here as members of the board of East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District. I'm going to ask one more time for the administration of East Ascension Gravity, Mr. Rue, you and your staff, Parish President Martinez and your staff, work together to let's get the facts out. All right, and stay in touch with Mr. Todd Lambert on where we stand. Todd, please, make whatever request for the information that you guys that y'all think you need. Please keep me in contact. Okay. All right. Moving right along. Go to Mr. Roof for your drainage report.
Yes, sir. I'm going to try to go through this real quick because of the length of the meeting tonight. But on capital improvement projects, Marvinboro Pumping Station enclosure, pre-bid conference is January 20th. Bid opening January 30th. Expected construction late spring, so we on schedule. Marvinboro Pumping Station expansion. That's the additional pumps. It's in final engineering and it's on schedule for early 2010 construction. Henderson Bayou floodgate and pumps. Preliminary engineer is complete. We had heard a report of that. So I won't go into that anymore. Muddy Creek Flood Protection Project evaluation report will be completed end of this month and be for your review next month. Law Ridge Levee, the existing levee design is complete. Right-of-way maps are complete. Right-of-way acquisition is in review and in progress right now, and is about 80% complete. We have to have just a little bit more right-of-way from what we already gained back in 2003. So we're reviewing that and finishing up on it. Construction is scheduled for the spring of this year to begin construction of that project. Law Ridge Levee extension, of course, that's all suspended and as of right now, pending the work of GSA engineers and the review and authorization by the commission to go forward with it. Spanish Lake Basin Project, Lake Pontchartrain Levee District sponsored the analysis by Shaw Group, and that is in progress. We met with the Shaw Group, Chairman Kluwat, and Mr. Grant and myself, and had a pretty good report from them, and that's ongoing. And we just I'd like to tell everybody that the input by the Gravity Drainage District is being considered and included in the latest preliminary analysis. So we're getting just about the things that we wanted in that project. So we feel pretty good about it, just a matter of them finishing and
We
moving
had,
forward.
in that meeting, we didn't hear anybody differ
That's right.
with the plans that they looked at the hydraulics versus what we wanted for that area.
Major channel improvement program is, right now we're working Smith Bayou about 15% complete, Bayou Francois 95% complete, Burette Ditch, we're presently between LA 44 and Abbey James, we're 95% complete. We have some work to do with a berm and some other improvements around the backside of Stafford Estates, but basically we're about 95% complete with that. We will be back in that section for the people that may be paying attention to that part of the project in a few days or at the latest next week to work through some of the problem areas that we could get right-of-way before. We have gained the right-of-way and we're moving forward with that. Right now, we get the next primary reaches or the Bird Island Ditch, and we're doing a wetland delineation and also the survey of that. We got the design complete, so we're doing this. That's going to be an in-house project. And as soon as we finish the wetland delineation and the survey, we'll be clearing some of the land out to do the final design staking, and then we're going to get to work on it. And we're still hoping to have that completed before the summer of this year, so the road department can initiate maybe the improvements to Roddy Road. Ball Bayou, wetland delineation, right-of-way in progress. Muddy Creek erosion project. Advertisement for construction is scheduled in 2 weeks. So we're going to start, we have the final specifications in, and we'll be making that document, the bidding document, to be putting it together within the next week or so, and going out for advertising for bids. And for 2008, we did major channel improvements, did about 20 miles of major channel improvements. And a huge hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of dirt was removed from our channels during that process. A lot of dirt. Regular drainage, the Amos Dutton Ditch is 25% complete. That's to drain the area around Highway 73 and 61 to solve that drainage problem that's been in existence for many years. Whip Brown Ditch is about 80% complete. And Ascension Trace, which is a major problem for us, is about 20% complete. And we're going to hand out, or you may have should have the work order print out for Pacific projects. Please review. If you have any questions, contact me. Railroad pipe crossing at Silverstone and also at LA 30. We have run into a little bit of problem with the railroad company. Now they're saying they lack of funds for preventing. We're in negotiations with them to find out if there is a need for a cost share, and if there is, what it is. What will it be? So we're in negotiation with the railroad company for those crossings, and to reiterate from about the project is actually adding a crossing or drain from Silverstone through the railroad, so you can drain that real swampy area behind Silverstone. And at LA 30 is to replace an existing cover that's collapsed in that area to drain Highway 30 at the railroad track. So we're within negotiations with them, and we'll come back to the commission with a report and authorization to move forward if participation is needed. Debris removal on non-project drainage ditches, regular drainage. This is all the areas that's minor ditches that's not part of the FEMA or NRCS funded project that is going out for bids. It's proceeding. We still, we clean up a ditch and two ditches, and we find or get calls in on a ditch. So we constantly moving on cleaning these minor ditches out, but right now it looks like about 80% complete, only because we keep getting more ditches in as we find them that's never been cleaned from the hurricane. Production 2008, 238 work orders were received. 228 work orders were completed. Of course, we had a backlog of about 250 beginning of the year, but we are getting more productive in those work orders. We did 56 miles of ditch upgrade and maintenance and 667 miles of servitude weed control last year. And we have in the agenda to hire the monitor for on the agenda, how to monitor for debris removal, and we'll handle that when we get to that agenda item. And that's my report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on Mr. Rude's report? Next, we'll go to item number 7, Contractor General Manager, Bill Rue.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, you want to handle this?
You can go ahead if you want.
Well, it basically, it was
put it on there.
due to the ongoing discussion and negotiations. I'm in agreement to extend my contract through March of 31st of 2009, if it's the wish of the commission.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Kent Shakespeare. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. On item number 7, I apologize. This sheet was on the side of me. Let me bring up the speakers on that. First, we'll have Mr. Epps again. You wanted to speak on Epps, which... Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Jeremy. You wanted to speak? Jeremy Epps.
Gentlemen, good evening.
Good
A lot of
evening.
good arguments tonight, and just think it's time that we be honest to the taxpayers of Ascension Parish. The drainage work that was promised 24 years ago needs to get completed. The parish president said that it's this commission's decision to move drainage back under his administration. In Sunday's paper, he says bringing the operations of drainage commissions back under the parish president is a business decision that needs to be made. We have heard how drainage money has been spent on bridges, salaries, and been commingled. I believe you owe it to the taxpayers the truth to what has happened to our tax dollars. Where was it commingled? I believe opening a legislative audit for the past 24 years may answer this and let the commissions know what they need to watch for in the future. This would at least give the taxpayers faith in their newly elected officials and know that they are willing to do right with our tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what that had to do with it. Ms. Goppel?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I do think Bill just gave an excellent report about the progress in the parish for drainage. So then I've got to ask myself this question: why are we agonizing over who should be the drainage administrator? If we're getting good work done, he's doing a good job, we're getting a good bang for our buck. Well, I think we just had an election, got a new parish president. He really is concerned about drainage, but he wants to control it. That's what it's about. Control. There are 94 positions and almost $6 million in salaries that translate into many families and relatives that will feel obligated to vote for the current politician in power. And $22 million in capital projects in 2009, and that translates into contracts and political payback. That's the reality, guys. Citizens really don't mind if the drainage money is spent wisely and the work is executed with excellence, but it has not been done that way in the past. You have facts. You just don't want to look at them. You look at Mr. Rue's memo. He explained it really clearly. He said this in his memo. Government, the parish government, when it was, drainage was under parish government, it wasn't as professional. Right now, the way it is, it's more professional, efficient, and accountable. That's what Bill said in his memo. Now, he's not going to sit here and tell you that he wouldn't serve under Tommy Martinez, because he would. But he just explained twice in this meeting. It's all about the politics. He explained in his memo to y'all exactly why it's more efficient, why it serves the people better. But you don't want to listen. That's so sad. You know, the facts are the facts. And you can jiggle the numbers and do whatever you want, but He's told you a year ago what he felt was the best decision, and you're rejecting it, continually agonizing over this. It's really not necessary. It is more economical and efficient to leave it as it is. Moving it would turn a professional, performance-based organization
Ma'am, excuse
is
me.
finally back on
We're on
track
the contract
into a
with Mr.
political
Rue. Are you still talking about Mr. Rue's contract?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
I'm
All
saying,
right.
switching it, turning it to someone else. It's now a professional, performance-based organization. And it would not be that way.
I don't think anybody has plans of replacing Mr. Rue.
You weren't listening to what I said, but thank you so
No,
much.
I listened to what you said, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Fontenot?
Gentlemen, I'm going to come up without any notes for this one.
Thank you, ma'am.
I can't believe we're sitting here talking about this, talking about going back under the parish. We've proven. Listen, I sat where you guys were. I read the Follett plan. I agonized night after night for hours, not sleeping, making notes and trying to do the right thing. I bought into the plan after the former parish president decided he didn't want this. So we gave Mr. Rue a contract and an opportunity. It's on your watch now to take advantage of the opportunity. This man has done an excellent job. The citizens can see what he's done. I see what he's done. I'm proud of the fact that our drainage dollars are going there. I just explained to you guys, I flooded and had to sandbag. I know what it's like firsthand. I've seen others. So drainage is important. I may have left your farm up there, but I'm a citizen out here, and I care deeply about my parish. This man needs to stay in control. You need to give him at least a few more years to see where we're going to go with this. It's not broken, guys. Don't fix it. Or don't try to fix what's not broken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to item number 8. Professional service contract, monitoring and debris-related services. Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir. Purchase Department received the request for qualification for monitoring of the debris removal related services. 6 firms submitted documents. A qualifications review committee independently rated these firms as per the Ascension Parish Engineer and Professional Service Selection Procedure. Based on that, the results of that review, we ask for the motion to authorize the contract between East Ascension Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and CDM Engineers for the monitoring of debris removal and related services as per specifications and work scope to be determined, and to authorize the Commission Chairman to execute the contract upon legal approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, a second by Mr. Benny Johnson. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries. That's motion to go forward and negotiate the contract.
Yes, sir. It's come out of scope of work, and we're going to put the contract together, and we're going to have a legal review of it, and then we'll send it to you, and based on our recommendation to you, you're authorized to sign and execute the contract without coming back to the commission.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Grant.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank the Drainage Board for actually using the competitive selection process that we passed in October. You are the first body to use it. I think it worked very well, and it kind of bodes of things to come in relation to putting professionalism into consultant selection.
Thank you, sir, and thank you guys on that, served on that little committee for your work.
One, I'd like to commend Mr. Grant and also his team for actually putting this together in the way they did. It was really comprehensive and gave specific instructions to us to the way it's graded and what was our responsibility, and it really is fairly easy to do. based on the procedure that was made up by Mr. Grant. So we commend them on that.
Thank you, sir. Move on to item number 9, authorization to advertise for bids, Martinboro Pump Station enclosure. And, Mr. Rue, you
Yes,
want
sir.
to give
This
us a
is-
brief on that?
This is it's a housekeeping issue because we wanted to go ahead and proceed as quick as possible. 2 bids. I emailed all of you and got permission to go ahead and begin the advertisement for bids. And this is just a procedure to get commission approval officially to do so.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second by motion by Councilman Shake Snyder, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Item number 10, we'll move along. LSU engineering study, status report and presentation.
Evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your patience, sir.
No problem. I guess the first thing I would say is we can go through, we just have a short presentation where you have, I believe, binders that Mr. Rue may have put together with the information. I don't know, Bill, if you had gotten that.
We've got some of the information.
We've got some of the information. So it's up to you as to whether you want the 1 to 2 minute summary, or we can go through just a few slides.
I would think, given the time of night, the
That's-
longevity of the meeting already, just the facts, man.
How's that? Okay. I
Please
know how to do
introduce
that.
yourself first.
There you go. Well, what I want to do is first off thank for the opportunity. First off to help out the parish and to train a couple graduate students and some undergraduate students at LSU, which I think has been very beneficial to the program and hopefully to Ascension Parish. We've worked through a number of a number of steps here and met with a number of people, including obviously Mr. Rue, C.J. Godin, who's no longer with them, people in the planning office, technology office. So we've been meeting with people regularly in order to get information, get some guidance on what's going on. Just quickly, we went through initially, evaluated the Prescott-Follett plan, projects completed, projects incompleted, and probably most importantly, somewhat compared that to the 10-year capital improvement plan, which was within the scope of what we needed to do. What's probably more exciting and things that we're working on is the collection and analysis somewhat of the hydrologic data, and more importantly, we started with elevation data. We worked with some people with the Center for Geoinformatics to actually make sure that we're working off of good elevation data. Obviously, as you all know, probably that's very important. Then we've also collected a number of hydraulic models from the parish, the different consulting firms. We've analyzed some of those and determined how to fit those within the broader scope of work we're doing. And then, like the last 2 things I just want to mention is we're developing basically a parish-wide kind of model for the drainage overall that the students have been working on. And then finally, one of the last things we've done this past fall is we've gotten the actual studies that FEMA contracted for the flood insurance studies. So what we're doing now is critically going through, analyzing those, looking at potential areas where there might be some, let's say some questions that can be asked or things that we can look at from basically the base flood elevations. So I guess with that, if that's short enough for the evening. The one thing, just real quick, I know in the packet I do have my contact information, and of course I do encourage you to, anytime you have a question, concern, anything like that, to contact me. That's one of the things that we had discussed, I think at least 1.5 years ago or so when we started this, is, basically open door policy or open email policy, whatever the case may be. So.
All right. Do we have any questions for the good doctor?
Yes, real quick.
Mr. Shake
We
Snyder.
appreciate it. One of the things that we got LSU involved is because with all the ping pong and back and forth of what to go from, what the priority should be, some people believe this, some people believe that, is to kind of give us an idea or a direction or an okay that the direction that we're headed in is the proper direction, and I guess it's kind of a stamp on what we're doing. And if you can really now I realize you had to take a while to go through a lot of the information and data, if you can continue to give us some reports, that kind of justifies what we're doing, how we're going about doing it, and then, as you said before, the questions to ask
Right.
as we continue to go forward. It would really give us a great deal of help that we can properly spend the money that the people have asked, because that's basically why we
Right.
are funding this, also with the benefit of you receiving, but
Right.
we need that to substantiate what we're doing.
Right, yeah, and that's why, as we've been collecting this over time and checking out the models and doing this, and basically what we've put together is this conceptual idea of what we believe is happening and how then the capital improvement plan would fit in.
So far, we're headed in the right direction?
Yes.
Okay, and I will be contacting you to
That's
see
fine.
if there's any
That's-
other further information.
That's what I'm
Thank
here
you.
for.
And I just want to remind everybody, I guess, that this agreement, y'all were basically from June 1, '07 to
Right, yes, sir.
May 31st, '09.
That sounds correct, yes, sir, that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, item number 11. Want to look at a resolution to the state legislative delegation for inclusion of Ascension Parish in the coastal zone. Got a handout on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just gives the zone to the commissioners. And in the explanation of the agenda item, we kind of state what the coastal zone and the fact that it was established in 1978. The parish has been added to it since its inception in '78, so it's not something that's not appropriate. And actually, the motion that we're asking is for the...
Motion?
Well, I want to make sure that we get it right. I think, and the parish president or Mr. Grant can comment on it, I think the proper procedure is for the commission to request send a resolution to the parish council for the parish of Ascension to send a resolution to our delegation to include Ascension Parish in the coastal zone.
Parish-wide thing.
I think it should be
Parish thing,
coming
not
from the parish
necessarily a
council
branch
and the
thing.
parish president, the request.
That's what the motion
included.
is. Wes.
Yes,
So-
that's what it is. We have a motion by Mr. Bell. Second by Mr. Cullen. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Lohr.
I'm all for this. I think this can be a great source of revenue, perhaps, if we're getting, if we're included in this and we get some funds from this. Just a question on the history, because I don't know it, of why we weren't in at the beginning. Have we?
1978.
Yeah.
It came toward this parish, to the leaders in the parish in 1978. And because I would say that basically not knowing the extent of what it was and were you going to give up your rights or something, it was just,
Federal government.
it was a scared thing, and they turned it away,
Is there any impact to building codes or anything
Well,
like that?
I can, if I may, Mr. Chairman, because I've kind of dealt with this. Again, Mr. Claude is right. When it first came in, it goes under it's a national act, and it goes under the Department of Natural Resources. And the Department of Natural Resources, being a state agency, was in charge of mandating certain requirements that if you, in this coastal zone, you have to come up with certain program for that, including partly with the elevations and partly with permitting. So there's a lot of issues that at the time, there wasn't no funding for it, but just a requirement. And I think the governing authority at the time said it wasn't worth getting involved and had been mandated by a state agency on what you had to do. However, since the hurricane, we had to implement most of those requirements anyway because of the wind load and whatever. So that has been done, and there is some money available for coastal parishes, so we think it's necessary and to our advantage to do so now.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys bringing this forward. I know Councilman Sexton has been kind of banging this drum for a while too, so appreciate it.
Well, I mean, it's basically when you look at it, I would expect this would have to be a combined effort on all our parts, including the folks that are not here tonight that's representing the west side, is because I think there's only so much money to go around, and if we throw another parish in it, Parish President, or somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure there's only so much comes in at a time, and if spread around to another parish, you know. So the people that represent us on the state and federal level may have some people on the other parishes that would say, nah, we don't need another guy to share this money with, but I appreciate the effort going forward, and we need to lobby for this. We need a concerted effort that we'd like to see Parish President, your administration, and Mr. Rue lead the brigade and holler at us, any one of us, and whatever we can do. Go meet with somebody, whatever it takes. I believe that I'd heard Livingston Parish they grabbed a pretty good chunk the last round, you know, so it's worth going. Yes, sir, Mr. Shakespeare.
Chairman, I think one of the things in the next few months that we can all do is approach some of the local parishes that are in the coastal zone and talk to their police jurors and councilmen and let them know. I know in the past we've had discussions with some of them from a number of parishes, and they've been very favorable and pretty much asked us, you know, why we're in it. And so they said they would support us in trying to get into it because they're in the same boat. They know. Yeah. So.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Any opposition? Motion passes. Let's go to item number 12, authorization to contract with CSSI for vegetation control. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You authorize this, you authorize in concept to contract with CSSI in the November Commission meeting for vegetation control. We negotiate with them and came up with a scope of work. We're asking for the motion to authorize a contract between East Ascension Drainage and CSSI for vegetation control as per the attached contract and scope of work not to exceed $20,033.33. And that's on the last page of the attachment to the last page.
We have a motion by
Contract.
Mr. Dempsey Lambert,
I second.
second by Mr. Kent Shake Snyder. Any discussion? Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir.
We've got competitive bids on this, always.
On this, we did not. It's a local company, and we had no other requests for, we had requests for proposals. This is a local company, and no other requests came in.
No other respondents?
No, sir, and this is a professional service,
Yes.
so it's not legally binding for us to bid out, but we did send out a request.
But we actually went through the motion. We tried to get other
We
requests in.
asked for other companies to participate.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes.
Chairman,
Yes, yes.
you might want to recognize, I know you had planned to do this, but recognize our new legal advisor, Ms. Falterman, and wish Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
because we're fixing to go to executive
I was
session.
well, I was fixing to see how they did in executive session. before I felt good about them. But, yes, I do want to recognize our new legal, Ms. Falterman. And, Mr. O'Neill Parrington, we wish you all the luck, and we still will hold the right to call you back.
Well, I will take your phone calls. I don't know if I'll give you the
And
answers.
I know you're always up for an opinion, so whether it's legal or not, but we'll certainly try to keep you in the mix of things. And wish you and the DA, the new DA's office, the best of luck.
Thank you.
So what we'll now is we'll convene an executive session. But before we go there, I want to thank the folks that came and spoke tonight. I thank you for your interest. We are representatives of the people, always. And we, sometimes we hear stuff or we get tired of hearing. We heard it 20 times before we got to the meeting, but hey, y'all continue to stay interested in your parish. This is your parish. Thank you very much, and keep in mind that we are part-time representatives, and we bone up on the best information we can, and we will try to always make the right decision. Thank you. Let's go into executive session.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, executive session.
Mr. Chairman, move to go in executive session to discuss A. Henderson Bar at River floodgate litigation and Ragray litigation.
Have a motion on
I'll
the floor.
second it.
Have a second by Mr. Bell.
Get a roll call.
Motion by Mr.
Get a roll call.
Valentine. We have a roll call.
It's got to be unanimous.
Madam Secretary? Roll call on the vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll go into executive session.
A motion to come back
into
in?
regular session.
We have a motion by Mr. Valentine.
Second.
Come back to regular session. We have a second by Mr. Benny Johnson. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We're now back in the regular session. We'll move quickly on to item number 14.
Councilman Lambert.
Motion adjourned.
We have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Lambert, second by Cullen.
I really wanted
Commissioner
to
Cullen.
object tonight on that.
Any objection? Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.